Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. Today you're going to learn 6 reasons why white belts, and maybe some other belts, annoy their instructor. You don't want to annoy your instructor. So listen to this. Find out how you're annoying your instructor and you're hampering your jiu-jitsu career. And just don't annoy people in general. But we're going to tell you today how to avoid annoying your instructor and other people. Speaking of annoying, I'm here with my co-host, Dan. You're not annoying at all. How you doing?
Not at all?
Nah, not really.
All right,
but you have an article, like you often do. You bring in an article, right?
This is a great topic because no one can directly ask you what's annoying.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no one can ask you.
And when you come in as a white belt or a new person to any situation, you don't know what's going on. Like,
and maybe you're still being annoying as an upper belt.
Right. You could, definitely.
And now you get to hear, and again, so we talked last week about, like, people think this podcast is directed at them.
Oh,
so
right.
now we can address these things and guarantee we are not thinking of one person at all. You can just objectively hear things that you might accidentally be doing that are annoying and fix them.
And I may be thinking about different individuals, but that's neither here nor there. But this is an article that you read someplace, you brought in.
Something called, it's from BJJ World.
BJJ World, yep, that's a well-respected publication.
Great publication.
They know what they're talking about.
So things that greatly annoy your BJJ instructor.
Greatly annoy your instructor.
So this isn't, we're not even talking about things that slightly annoy your instructor.
I think it's usually white belts, right?
Yeah.
But so, Dan, if a white belt comes in and they're annoying, maybe we can forgive them a little bit. But if they're purple-brown and they're still annoying, whoa, that's not forgivable,
so
right?
For white belts, they need to listen.
Right.
Purple-brown, you still need to listen because maybe make sure you got to wipe this out if you're still doing it.
None of this annoyingness is leaking through. Right.
Yeah, you got to make sure you've solved this.
So as we often do, you're going to tell me what this article says, and then I'm going to give my take on it, and maybe I'll come up with some annoying things that I've experienced as well.
Right. And no offense to any of you out there, but you gotta listen close and stop doing it if you're doing it.
We could all be annoying sometimes.
Or maybe John will say this does not annoy me, and then you can keep doing it.
You know, Dan, I find out that I annoy a lot of people, and I don't realize it.
Well, that's not that surprising.
I think I'm like a very nice, not annoying, average person.
Really?
But apparently, I can be very annoying and off-putting. I think I'm more off-putting than annoying, but whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't say annoying. I'd say more off-putting.
Off-putting, yeah. But whatever.
Let's go.
All right, let's get right into it.
Because
people subscribe right now because you're going to get great information about jiu-jitsu, about life, and about being annoying.
And you're about to find out how to not be annoying.
That's
a huge. I mean, what's a
more
valuable podcast than that?
You don't want to do that. All right, let's get into it. What's the first annoying thing?
Number 1, explaining technique. And I have seen this a lot. And the idea is a BJJ instructor is going through explain technique, and there's someone standing there going, yeah, no, what you need to do is, and I've seen this many times.
You've seen it, yeah.
And they're chiming in. Basically, they're going, no, wait, the elbow up.
The chimers.
With the instructor actually there.
Oh, my God, Dan. This is truly annoying. I have to agree. I've experienced this on several occasions.
I've seen it many, many times myself.
It is so freaking annoying, man. And I have to bite my tongue.
Sometimes even if they're right, it's annoying. But you know what I mean? You're like, yes, let me handle this. Because like you might be aiming at the most important thing they're doing wrong, and they're pointing out something else. Right. And even if it's right, it's like, let me talk.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they can even be wrong, which is the worst.
Oof. Right. I think to play devil's advocate, anytime you teach something yourself or repeat it, it's a method to learn it more. So maybe they're intuitively just trying to get it into their own system better. So they're regurgitating it, repeating it, which is fine. And then I think, at least on an unconscious, if not a conscious level, they're trying to show the instructor, look, I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Look, I'm learning. I'm doing great, right? They're looking for a little bit of maybe of approval, and it's probably unconscious. They probably don't even realize. I'm sure I did this a lot myself.
So it's a good point, which is for this whole podcast, right? It's like we're not saying you're a horrible person,
right?
If you do these things.
Although I think, Dan, a certain percentage of our listeners are horrible people.
Probably
we accept them.
Large percentage. Yeah. But what we're saying for this is that we're not criticizing you, but you should maybe just be like, oh, something you're doing wrong is pointed out to you. So
right.
Stop it.
Stop. Yeah. Rein it in a little bit.
You're a good guy or woman, but like, stop.
And let me give you the perspective of an instructor, Dan. So maybe I have whatever 12 people in a class, whatever the number is, and there's 2 of the students doing a technique. So I only have so many minutes to allocate to every group. So if I run over to your group and I try to explain to the person, no, you want to get the underhook here, and then his partner's like, yeah, you got to pull it up and swing it over, and no, you're burning through time here that, this isn't effective. It's not efficient. Just let me talk, and then I'll be on my way. So yeah, it's definitely annoying. And then when they're wrong, oh my God, you want to just smash your head into the wall. And then white belts is the worst, because it's like, you're a white belt, for God's sakes. Like, you don't be telling anybody anything.
I don't think it always comes from a place of like bad intention. It's like maybe I'm picturing like you're nervous and you're trying to help, and just reel that energy in and
I agree. It's 90% well intended, but it is freaking annoying.
I've probably done it. You're saying you've done it. Like, it's like,
I have a version of this, Dan, where somebody's doing something incorrectly. So I run over there, the dutiful instructor, to help them. And I go, hold on. No. You want to take your left hand, and they go, grab his ankle, and they try to finish my sentence. And I'm like, you know what? If you could finish my sentence, I wouldn't be running over here. You would already be doing the right thing. Could you just let me finish my own goddamn sentence? So then you're doing 2 things. You're talking over the instructor, and you're finishing their sentences. Man, that is so annoying. Is there anything worse than that, Dan? Somebody finishing your sentence incorrectly?
Yeah, that's not even a jiu-jitsu thing, right? Like, that's in life.
That's a double whammy.
There's nothing stranger. I think we've both known people that routinely finish your sentence wrong.
Oh,
and then it's just like, and forget jiu-jitsu. Do you know what I mean? They're just, you start saying something like, what I really think is wrong with that. And they're like, the way they pronounce that? And you're like, no, that's not at all what I was saying.
So it's doubly wrong, Dan. For one, they're interrupting you.
Yeah.
And then they're not, it's triply wrong. Then they're not really listening because they provide the wrong answer. I mean, wow.
And sometimes I've seen they do the opposite answer, right? Like they're just
like 180 degrees in the wrong direction.
They're making the opposite point of what you want to make. They're like, so the point is that they're you say
penguins can fly.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I'm going to strangle you.
You just said the opposite of what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that is truly annoying, and it happens.
Again, I could see myself like, again, you're full of energy, or you're rolling, and you want to try to say something, and it's just like, make an effort to be quiet. I think is fair. You know what I mean? Like, make an effort.
I think so,
Dan. When the instructor's talking, make an effort to be quiet. And I'm saying this about myself.
Yeah.
As always, I sort of resent when people get angry at me at these sort of podcasts where they're like, well, but and I'm like, no, I did it too, man. I'm not like criticizing you. Like, it's just something I did and you might be doing, and try to fix it.
I think so. If you're the student, try to open yourself up to receive information, not to give information. That's a different role. Like I go over about once a week, and I train with the great Mark DellaGrotte at Sityodtong, and I try to go in there and be open to information that he's giving me. I try not to like finish his sentences. Yeah, that's crazy.
Right. Yeah. You've had decades of training. Yeah. And so it's like, it's easy.
Although Dan, he does tell me I'm a bit of a one-upper. So
what's that mean?
Like when somebody said something, you trump whatever they're saying.
Well, they get one-uppers, but in what context do you do
Every context. Apparently I'm a pretty awful one-upper, but that's also annoying. Yeah.
So again, we're not saying that we're immune to this.
Right.
But it's something we also should work on.
Definitely. Yeah. Don't finish your instructor's sentences. Don't talk while they're talking. Don't try to instruct while they're instructing. Oh my God.
Right.
That's annoying. Definitely.
And we could work on it too, but mostly you should work on it.
Know what's similar to that, Dan, as I see sometimes, two belts will be out there rolling like they're having a little sparring session. Maybe it's a blue belt and a purple belt. Then a white belt from the sideline starts coaching one of the players. And it's not a good look,
Just
right?
Shut up. Yeah,
It's like, do you really think they need your advice? You know?
Offshoot of this is, or your sparring partner, where I've done this, where I'm like rolling and maybe we've talked about this before, but many variations of this where like I'll pass their guard and they're like, good. I'm like, thank you. Like what, like I get it. If I pass a black belt's guard and they're like, good. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like that's a legitimate compliment. But if I pass a white belt's guard and they're like, good. I'm like, what?
It's a little condescending. Yeah.
I know. Like, do you know what I mean? They'll be like, or I tap them and like, that was a great choke. I'm like, yeah, I know. I choked you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, why do you think you're evaluating my choke? Do you know what I mean? Like,
right. That's a little subtle
I don't mean to
alpha
be
move. Yeah.
Belt related, but like there's something
kind of belt related.
Like, I think that is an example where it's okay. Like, I would never have a problem with like a higher belt telling me that was good.
You know what happens to me
like
sometimes?
A lower belt tells me, and I'm like, what is that?
You know what happens to me sometimes, Dan? I'll be rolling with somebody, and somebody on the sideline starts coaching the other athlete. Like, so one of my students, I'm rolling with one of my students, and another student starts coaching them. And I don't know what happens, but it flips a switch on me. So then
just destroy the.
Yeah, then I'm like, oh, I didn't know it was me against all you all. Yeah, now I'm gonna like wreak havoc and try to smash people. So yeah, usually
they're not helping.
That's not helpful. Yeah, it's gonna make me step my game up, and yeah.
I might have said this before, but I remember going against like a really new white belt and not a great athlete or wrestler or anything like that. Like really hapless. Like they were not able to do anything. But whatever I do, he'd be like, good. Like I'd pass his guard, he'd be like, good, that was good. And then I mount him, he'd be like, good, sweet. And then I'd like,
sweet.
Maybe like, choke him out, and he'd be like, nice. That was nice. And I'd be like, why are you still talking like you're evaluating what I did?
Evaluating it.
Like
that's a real move, Dan.
I just destroyed you. Like
we should put that down as an annoying thing. The evaluation.
Yeah, like you're evaluating me, like I just destroyed you, and you're like acting like you're evaluating.
Yeah,
me.
They're saving their esteem. They think it's a whole maneuver where if I'm evaluating you, I must be superior to you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you're talking.
That's annoying.
Just weird.
That is so creepy. Yeah. It doesn't really work. Come on. Yeah.
I've seen that before. It was like, I just felt like, thank you. Yeah, thanks.
I told you that story I had with a guy when I was a blue belt. It's the same thing. And he'd come at me like, I did something to his family. He wanted to murder me. So we would have this heated...
So he was a blue belt and you were...
Blue belt. And we'd have a heated exchange.
Wait, you were at this point?
Blue belt.
Oh, and then what was he?
Blue belt.
Oh, so you were equal. Okay.
We're equal, yeah.
Okay.
And he'd just come at me hard as hell. I'm like, all right, let's go, man. And then I would pass his guard, like get to a position, and then as I was sinking in the choke, he would suddenly go from like fighting like a banshee, like a wild man, and he'd go, that's it, bring your elbows together. Now he'd start instructing me at the very end of it, like, you son of a bitch. So then what I would do, Dan, and then we did the same routine every time. The first time he totally caught me off guard. I'm like, wait, what? Now you're instructing me on how to choke you? And so then I was ready the next time. So the next time he came at me trying to kill me. Same thing, I passed his guard. I got in a place where I was going to collar choke him. And then I got my grips, and then I waited for him to start to talk. And he goes, that's it. And then I would slam on the choke in mid-word. And he'd go, and then I'd let off. I go, what? Did you say something? And he'd start sucking again, and then I would slam the choke back on. So... maybe that's not a great story for me to tell, but yeah, he was annoying.
Like, I've said, but there's like I've had examples of rolling with. I've told you before, people that are much better than me, So this always sounds like, so every example I said so far is like a white belt being almost like, obnoxiously.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
But I've rolled with people that are much better than me.
Yeah.
And I managed one time to pass their guard, and I can feel them fighting it.
Oh, right.
And I usually can't pass their guard.
Yeah.
And one time they struggle and I get past, and all I do is pass their guard. I'm not even saying I choke them out or tap them. And then as soon as I tap their guard, they're like, good. That was good. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, yeah, you saw that opening from my, and as if they left it there. And I'm like, come on, man. My feeling is like, come on, man. I saw that you tried to stop me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all I did was pass your guard.
Yeah.
You still could regain it. You could
right.
tap me. You're better than me. I'm not trying to brag. You can't even let me pass your guard one time?
Right. Yeah, I don't think I do that, Dan, but it is truly annoying. Actually, I was rolling with the great John Burke the other day, and we had a real tussle, and he came so close to passing my guard, and I had to fight like hell, and I regained my guard. But afterwards, I was like, yeah, John, I had to fight as hard as possible to not let you pass my guard. But I didn't feign oh, yeah, I was putting an opening to see if you would take advantage. No, I was fighting as hard as I could.
That was tough, yeah.
Yeah, from the beginning to the end, yeah.
But it probably helps the students, too, because they want to know if they could ever do it, right?
You need accurate information, yeah.
Yeah. Because my opinion, for me, anytime I pass, someone that's good, I pass their guard, I'm like, they probably let me. So then you never feel good about yourself. Do you know what I mean? Because you're like...
It's tricky,
you know what I mean? There's
one
that
of my
balance.
instructors from back in the day, Pat Barbieri, who has always had amazing jiu-jitsu, great guy.
He was almost unpassable guard, right?
I never passed his guard. Yeah. I think I got up to brown belt and I never passed his guard. One time I almost did, and he recovered, and I was like, damn it, I almost passed your guard. He goes, yeah, that was good. I go, yeah, if I passed your guard, I would have went home and on the way home, I would have bought a leather-bound journal and opened it up and wrote the date and say, today I passed Pat Barbieri's guard. And I probably would have put it on a shelf and never did anything else with it. He goes, oh, no, you've passed my guard before. And I said, no, Pat, if I passed your guard, I would have freaking remembered. I never passed your goddamn guard. Son of a bitch. Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah. All right, let's go to the second annoying thing that
all right.
white belts,
sort of an obvious
sometimes
one.
Blue belts do, or whatever.
No, there's more than.
Okay.
We like to think it's white belts, but I think we all need to look inner. We need to look deep within.
Okay.
Walking out and talking during class, when the class isn't over and you walk out. What separate things? Walking out
of class.
Yeah,
in mid class. Is that what they're trying to say?
Mid class.
Just leaving.
I don't know what that means. I think usually when people do that, that's they're getting water or something.
Well,
I like that one. I would say
I think it's nice if class isn't over, Dan, and the student is leaving. It's really nice when they come over and they go, "Hey, I got to head out."
I tell you ahead of time.
I got to. Or not even at the moment. They're like, "There's 15 minutes left. I got to head out. The wife and I are going out to celebrate tonight. Something, right. I don't know." And I'm like, "Oh, awesome. Have a great time."
But before class, go, "Hey, just so you know, I got to go."
Oh, anytime. But if they just disappear when there's 15 minutes left, you're like, right. What the hell happened? Yeah. Right. I think they call that an Irish goodbye. You ever heard of that expression? Yeah. You have? Okay. You're part Irish, so you know that. Yeah.
But that's
Dimitri, you know what an Irish goodbye is? You do. Yeah.
I'm sort of more pro Irish goodbye for parties where you just I gotta go.
My son Rory gives me the Irish goodbye all the time. I just turn around and he's gone. I'm like, where the hell did he go?
What about the second part though? Talking. I think because I could be guilty. I'm a talker, so.
I think Dan, talking is perfectly acceptable and actually encouraged. If you're training with somebody and something significant occurs in your role, you should discuss it. What happened? How did you get out of that armbar? You want to dissect, you want to analyze. The phrase that you and I came up with here, Dan, is cognitive replay. Right. You got to do that cognitive replay.
Right, but if you're talking as an instructor.
Oh, if I'm presenting information and someone else is talking.
You must see that a lot, right?
I do not.
Oh.
That's good. That is, whoa.
Yeah.
That's a room stopper. If I'm talking and somebody starts talking.
No, but just chatting with their the person next to them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I'm presenting information as a technique and somebody starts talking to their training partner, I'm going to stop everything and I'm going to slowly turn and I'm going to look at them with this look and wait not only for them to stop talking, but to look at me and go, oh, yeah, sorry, excuse me. I'm going to go, yeah.
Because, again, it sounds like only an idiot would do it, but you could imagine a halfway scenario where someone's like commenting on something you said. You know what I mean?
I guess it depends, Dan. Yeah.
But it's also, the point is be careful. Like, just don't be disrespectful.
Well, the whole thing is, are you disrupting the flow of information? If a teacher is presenting information and you're causing noise that interrupts the flow of information, that's not cool.
It doesn't count if the teacher says something and you go, that's what I did.
Or you go,
that's what you
that's interesting. Oh, I see what's going on now.
Oh, that's exactly what you did. That's fine, right? Like, it's
perfectly, yeah. But if they're like, hey, what do you think about the Super Bowl this weekend?
Yeah.
I'm going to strangle them. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Oh, and here's the other thing, Dan. Here's another annoying thing. I think as far as learning and instruction goes, when we're presenting information, I don't want to hear any music on in the academy at all. Like, I've seen some instructors, they turn on music like relatively
and leave it the whole
loud
time.
volume, and then they're screaming over the music to teach. I mean, that's insanity to me. What do you think? Am I right or what?
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
I mean, it's fun. I like the idea. It's like a young guy's idea to train while Metallica's blasting and stuff like that.
But here's what we do, Dan. When we present the information, there's no sound, no music going on. And then we train the different positions. When we train, we turn on the music.
Yeah.
And then it's fun because you're training. But if an instructor is trying to present information, why you would have any unnecessary noise going doesn't make any sense to me at all. That's only interrupting the instruction, right?
Right.
Like, actually, I was teaching a class the other day, and these guys were in the corner, and they were kicking shields or something, and it was just too goddamn loud. It was like wham, 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 and they're great guys. They didn't mean to be disruptive, but it was kind of disruptive. And in our academy, like, our training space is a big warehouse space with a metal ceiling, so like, noise on one side of the room literally bounces off the ceiling and lands on the other part. So it's
You're making a good point, which is like, for this whole thing, we're not saying those guys are bad guys. They just didn't think of it, And so,
I think when you have a jiu-jitsu class in an academy and an instructor is presenting information, we got to hold that in respect, and we got to. And here's the other thing, Dan. When my son and I were teaching most of the classes, when we give information, we're respecting your attention. We're respecting your time, as a student. Mm-hmm. We're not babbling on. We're not giving we're not doing a podcast. You know what I mean? We're like, here's what
pointless podcast. Which
we're not doing two babbling idiots doing a podcast.
Stupid.
We're giving and when I present information, Dan, I do the why, what, how, and what if. So the why is, I'm going to say why you want to listen to what I'm about to tell you, just like this podcast. Why do you want to listen to the podcast? Because I'm going to tell you how not to be annoying, and nobody likes annoying people. So your life is going to be better if you listen to this. And then we go for the what. What's the what? We're going to show you a Kimura lock today. That's a shoulder lock named after a famous judo player named Kimura who had a match with Helio Gracie. Okay. And then the how. You grab the wrist, you go through the how. And then the what if is like, let's get into position and try to finish this Kimura, and the other guy's going to resist. That's the basic structure of our classes. And we don't want to interrupt that. So when we're presenting the information, we want to get right on. Oh, my point was we're very systematic at how we're presenting the information. So we're respecting people's time. We're not wasting your time.
And the reverse of that is be mindful that you're not being disrespectful.
I think so, yeah.
And make sure, whether it's kicking a bag or leaving or whatever, like just have some part of your head like, I'm not being disrespectful.
When I come to the academy, I am devoted and obsessed with developing my students. So I want to be there just to develop them, help them all get better. How can we do that most effectively? And if you're talking when the instructor's trying to get information, you're screwing it up for the other students. You're screwing it up for yourself because you're not taking in the information properly because you're talking, but you're kind of interrupting the other students too. So it's annoying and disrespectful. Don't do it. Okay.
Number 3, it's related.
All right.
It's saying lack of discipline. And the way I'll put it is this. A lot of academies, including yours, made the choice to not be like you have to bow and you have to,
right.
you know, like before you come in, do it like. And I think what that can lead to is and I'm editorializing a little.
Okay.
Like it leads to a little informality,
a little slackness.
Yes, so it's
lackadaisicalness.
Like you're not bowing and you're not, but then they're like, are you coming in late? Are you not coming in dressed properly?
Right.
Are you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Are you consistently late? Are you skipping warm-ups? Or you're like, I don't want to do the warm-ups?
I remember a few years ago, Dan, a young guy came in. So my last name is Connors. The name of our academy is Connors Martial Arts. Yeah. And this guy comes in and he goes, "Hey, Connor." So he's addressing me in what he thinks is my as my first name. And he's like, "Hey, Connor. Hey, Connor." Yeah. And I'm like, "Are you an idiot? First of all, do you think my first name would be the name of the gym? Bob's Jiu-Jitsu Gym? You don't think I would use my last name? Are you that big of a moron?" And then the last name Connors, there's no apostrophe before the S. Yeah. And again, then the first name Connor has one end. It doesn't have two ends.
But aside from all that,
so this guy obviously was low IQ. Yeah,
but it's an attitude.
And then the hey.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you don't have to bow to me, but how about, "Excuse me, coach, I have a question for you," or yeah, or even "Hey, coach," or "Professor," whatever you want to say.
Sorry, hi.
Yeah, you know, like, "Excuse me, can I ask a question?" You don't even have to address me, but "Hey, Connor." And then I said to the guy, Dan, I go, he said it a few times, and man, it got on my. I go, "Listen, yeah, my name's not Connor. My name's John Connors. You can call me John. You can call me Coach. You can call me Professor. You can call me Mr. Connors, but don't call me Connor." Yeah. And he never came back. I don't know. I don't think I was too harsh. It was a little annoying, though. I don't know.
So
maybe that's another thing put down there. Stop yelling at people, calling them the wrong name. You know.
But part of that also can be like people showing up routinely late. That can be okay. I would assume. I don't mean to speak for you, but they need to say to you, "Hey, John, you have a 12 o'clock class. I can't get there till 12:10." And you'd be like, "All right." Like, you know what I mean?
You know what? I'm actually very super cool with that. I tell people all the time, come late, leave early. Some training is better than none. So I get it. But I understand your point where it can be a slippery slope. If you get too lax, then you could get some problems with that. But I'm also trying to de-emphasize social status.
Right.
Because I don't want people to be sensitized about that in our academy.
That's different than discipline. That's different.
It is. I want them. Yeah, but I'm not going to do a lot of bowing in my place, if any. I'm not going to be lining people up anymore according to belt rank. We're all going to come in a circle. We're going to warm up. We're going to learn some technique, and we're going to train hard. And I love it. And Dan, I see our students are coming now, developing so quickly, because that's what we're focused on, our development, that it's awesome. And I see, you know what I see? We do this positional training where you can have a black belt and blue belt, and they're banging heads. They're training hard, and they're both developing. And I think it's amazing. And I think a lot of academies aren't quite like that, where they have the high belts training with the lower belts so much. You know what I mean? I only do it where it's appropriate, where everyone's going to develop. But that's where my focus is. But I hear what you're saying about the discipline, yeah.
Another point that's they have listed in this article under discipline, that I think this is a good one because you would never feel comfortable bringing this up with anyone. So it's good to bring it up, not apply to someone. And it's paying your fees. Like, it's super uncomfortable for you as an owner to bring that up with anyone. So that's a great time to bring it up here on the podcast. So, like,
I'll tell you what, I'm over it. I'm not uncomfortable with it. It's.
Oh, you just say you got to pay.
It's ridiculous, but I'll say this: our students are exceptional, man. They're so good. They've supported us through this whole COVID thing. I mean, Rory and I are so appreciative, so grateful, so happy about it.
Through this,
yeah, our students have been fantastic about that, and.
But the message is...
But occasionally a guy will wander in who's not a student, and they're like, "Hey," and they want to train, and they don't want to pay. Like, what universe are you living in? Like, guys who try to do that come in, like, to an open mat and not even pay a mat fee.
Again, you don't necessarily have to be an evil person. But I remember you talking about, like, there'd be people like, just, I just want a little, like, if you could hold gloves for me, and you're like, it's my profession. Like, you have to
can you
pay
come,
me.
Yeah, can you come to my house
Like,
and mow my lawn?
Yeah, right.
And wash the windows of my house for free? It's a little silly. I mean, I remember one guy, Dan, he'd try to come to our open mat. And here's the other thing. If you come to somebody's academy and the owner and the head instructor of the academy is there at the open mat, why in God's name would you not walk over there and introduce yourself and say hello? They come in and they just start trying to train with people. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And
maybe they don't realize that everyone in the gym is like, who is this? We don't know who he is. Like,
I think they're just jerk-offs, and they're just like trying to save a mat fee or something. Like, and for the most part, they're awful. I don't want them there. Like, talk about a lack of respect. You're not even going to say hello. That'd be like me walking into their house and opening their fridge and eating a fudgicle and then walking out. It's like, what the hell? You're not even going to say hello, and you're going to take my stuff? I mean, talk about annoying. Man, there's one guy. I'm not going to say who it is, but I remember this one guy, Dan, and man, he did that a few times and annoyed me to no end. Yeah. Whatever. But
I was in the middle of some of these.
That was a long time ago. Right now, we have a great group of people, so respectful, and we get people that are, a couple of guys that are coming in, a couple of drop-ins, I will say, although we don't officially allow drop-ins, so I'm letting the cat out of the bag, but they're high-level guys, so they're great training partners, and they have a spirit of generosity when they come in, and it's just great to have them. And it's only
I guess
a couple.
the common theme is being mindful of being respectful.
I think so. Yeah, it's just pure. It's just being conscientious.
And
here's another thing that people do, Dan. Speaking of disrespectful and lack of conscientiousness, if you're a member of a gym and you leave, don't just disappear.
Actually, this is a
say
big point.
goodbye. Just
this
say,
is a big
hey,
point,
I'm moving to Florida.
I'm not sure many people know this. This is actually probably a really good point.
I think most people know this, but
not
occasionally
everyone.
one out of 1,000 people will just be like,
it's probably 1 out of 5.
I don't know. We had this one young guy who was training with us, and he was a terrific student and very polite, bright, and nice guy, and you're helping him out, and you're enjoying his progress and helping him. And then one day he just disappeared. And then I didn't see him for a few months, and he came back. He's like, yeah, I moved to another state. I go, oh,
tell
great.
me.
I go, yeah, just let me know. He goes, oh, yeah. I go, hey, no. I go, listen, I'm going to do you a favor. If you leave a situation, just spend 2 minutes saying, hey, it was great. I'm moving to another state. Thank you so much. Because when you just disappear, you put people in a place of uncertainty. It's not good. You know what I mean? It's like a tiny investment, and you have like this great relationship for life.
What happened to this guy?
You could go back anytime in the future, and people would be like, "Oh, there's so and so. Yeah, that's great."
But I think the point, and it's
like a ghost
It's a
thing.
really
Like,
good point, which
don't
is
ghost
they think
people.
that you're in charge of this gym and you have hundreds of students, and but it's like the point is like you notice your students, you know them.
Yeah,
and like if someone vanishes, you're like, what happened to that person?
Right.
So I guess the message to the students is like, you're not invisible. Like if you vanish, people are like, what happened to you?
Isn't it common courtesy, Dan?
I would think. But you don't walk off of jobs, right? I guess people do. But
yeah.
Like if you have a job in an office, you don't just like not show up. I guess people do, but
I think it's more personal
actually
than a job in an office. You know what I mean?
Because you're particularly trying to train them.
Yeah.
So one more example. What do you think about this? Because it's also listed, and I think it comes up, which is like you're teaching a move, and the students are like, I already know this move.
Oh, my God. Talk about annoying. So, Dan, let me tell you this story. This kid comes in, and he goes, well, I train with so-and-so, but I want to train at your academy. I'm like, so so-and-so is like a local MMA fighter guy or something that, I mean, barely any renown, right? Okay. And I'm like, oh, great, whatever. Like, I barely know who the guy is. And, we're teaching a back control escape tonight. And we teach some back control escape. And he goes, yeah, so-and-so, his guru says, if I do that, I'll get mounted. And I go, yeah, but, if you do it and you keep your hips elevated and you block their hips, they can't mount you. So you don't have to worry about that. And he goes, yeah, but someone says I'll get mounted if I do that.
So you're like, so
And
mount
I'm like,
me.
so we're not thinking. Yeah.
You're
So I'm like,
go
all right.
ahead. Go ahead and mount me. Yeah.
And Dan, I still did that. And he was like, yeah, I see what you're saying, but so-and-so says I'll get mounted. So it was almost like a religious faith. It's like, I know you've demonstrated to me and explained to me why it would work. But
it actually showed me that I couldn't do it.
And so-and-so said I'd be mounted. So then I'm like, all right, we're going to train back control now, and you and I are going to train. And we're going to see how you get out, and we'll see how and then I would escape every time, and I would submit him every time. And at the end of 30 minutes of getting submitted like 40 times and me escaping 40 times, he was like, yeah, but so-and-so says that doesn't work. And then he didn't come back. And I didn't want him back because it's so annoying and dopey.
Right. So there's 2 points that come up. One, I think the point of the headline for this was lack of discipline, but I think it's almost lack of respect. Like, be respectful. Like,
common sense,
you know what I mean?
common
like,
courtesy, right?
Courtesy and respect. And,
yeah.
And also,
I don't like to say respect too much because sometimes some martial arts people lean into that too strongly, like their version of respect.
Right. We're not saying respect meaning bowing.
Yeah, you don't have to be deferential. Just be courteous.
Right.
It's just courtesy,
like
right?
you would. It's not
Any
different
person.
in the gym. Yeah.
It's not even a status thing. Just be courteous. Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this other idea of like moves, maybe this is an obvious point, but like black belts can remind themselves to how to work on a rear naked choke, or like the most like there's no move so well that you can't review it.
I totally agree,
right?
Dan.
Like
and I would say this, that everything that you could do, you could drill down deeper into it and find even finer and finer distinctions. Right. And those extra fine distinctions give you a little bit more
how
leverage.
You get to be really good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I always use the example of you can watch Muhammad Ali or whoever you want, Floyd Mayweather boxing, and the coach in the corner is yelling, hands up, head movement. Well, you know what I mean? They know hands up, head movement, but it doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me give another example.
They're not like, well, how dare you say that to me? I know to keep my hands up and you need to.
Let me give another example, Dan. Just the way you bridge. So we all know how to bridge. We press our feet into the ground, we lift our hips up, right? So I started to realize, going against heavier and heavier guys, that you could improve bridging. So here's how you can do it, Dan. Your foot that you're pressing off the ground off of, the closer you bring that to your hip, not only do you extend your hip a further distance higher, but that foot is more underneath the load. The hip is the load, so you can generate more power. Now, if you can bring your foot all the way under your hip and then get on the ball of your foot, so you're not on the flat of your foot, you dramatically increase not only the amount of weight you can lift with that sort of leg bridge, that bridge of that hip, but how far you can extend it. And so those are like little distinctions that the most basic thing, you can still get more and more distinctions like that. Add that, and it makes it more and more effective. So, yeah, I totally agree with you there that even the most so-called basic things, you can just drill deeper and make them even better and better.
And the same idea of whatever discipline or respect. Don't be in class being like, I already know this, I want to work on something else.
I'll tell you, it's not happening in our academy anymore because everyone's getting so goddamn good that if you don't think you have to improve, you're going to get left behind. That's all there is to it. Yeah.
All right, number 4?
Yes.
And we've talked about this earlier. Hygiene.
Man, yeah.
So this is a good one to bring up again on the podcast because this is super uncomfortable.
Dan, you would think that you don't have to bring this up. You would think that all adult people would realize I should wash my body and my clothes before, I go
There's
train.
There's only a few simple points, right?
Yeah.
Wash your gi or clothes every single time before you go.
Every single goddamn time. Yeah.
Not every other time. Yeah. This is a simple rule.
And not even like, I only sweated a little bit because here's what happens.
I didn't even free roll, but because I think that's what happens, right? You're like, I only did the drills, and then I went home.
That's what must happen.
Still wash it.
Yeah, because here's what happens. What they don't realize, if they sweat a little bit, and then they take that off and they stuff it in their bag and leave it there for 3 or 4 days, all that little bit of sweat and bacteria and some little sweat from somebody else and a little bacteria from somebody else. It's literally a petri dish. It's a germ farm, and it just grows and blossoms and grows. Then you take it out of the bag 3 days later, put it on again, and it stinks to high heaven, and it's awful.
It bizarre because one thing about jiu-jitsu is it's disgusting. Like, it's the one time in life I'm like, I smell like someone else.
Oh,
and like, I literally know who I smell like. Like, I can literally be like, you can get home and be like, I know who I smell like. To me,
you're like, if this was a crime, I would have this thing solved immediately.
It's revolting.
Yeah.
Like, it is disgusting. It's a gag-inducing thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, how in the world do you not wash? And then
some of these guys, Dan, I don't know what they're washing their gis in. So they have white gis, and then they turn like this yellow color, like this urine yellow. And
wait
you're
a
like,
minute. That
what
could
are
happen
you doing,
I
man?
can't say I don't like my old gi.
The other one that gets me
is just not get a white gi.
I think guys, I don't get white gis anymore. These guys get white gis, and I don't know what's happening, but I will say this. It's mostly with weed smokers, guys who smoke weed, and they get a white gi, and then like 3 weeks later, it's battleship gray. Like the gi is literally gray. You're like, how the hell did they do that?
Are you saying that there's people doing jiu-jitsu that smoke marijuana?
I think that they must wash their gi, hang it up to dry, and sit in the same room and smoke weed and blow the smoke onto the thing because it gets gray. Like, I'm not saying grayish. It's solidly gray. I'm like, how the hell did they do that?
Like, if they do enough, it like could almost look all right? Like a gray gi.
Right. Yeah.
Solid gray gi.
Yeah. But it doesn't look all right.
So then you wash yourself. And then the other thing is
stop blowing your weed smoke onto your gi, too. Can we
and
put
the skin
that down?
infections really don't come in or really cover them up. Like, it's a no-brainer, right? But like all the staph and come on.
Well, staph is dangerous, so you got to take that seriously for yourself.
But I think most people know that. But if you have that pimple and you don't know what it is, like, don't be like, Dan, don't be like, I don't care.
So I'm on the mats twice a day, like 5 days a week, and then once a day, a couple other times a week, and I literally never get ringworm or anything. But I tell you, I do this. If I find like I have the beginnings of a tiny blemish, particularly around my wrist, like, ooh, that looks like a tiny ingrown hair, I immediately put Lotramin ringworm killer on it, and then you just nip it in the bud.
That's actually not a bad point.
Yeah.
Because it's like obvious, but it's not obvious. People don't do it. I don't do it. Right? Like,
you can be prophylactic
like,
with it. Just take a little of that cream, put on any
if you're training
opening
all the time,
in your skin.
If you're training all the time and you see one little thing, go after it immediately.
And here's the thing, Dan. It's very likely is an ingrown hair, but when you have a break in the dermatitis, it's an opening for infection to enter. So you want to jump on it immediately, definitely.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. Now that we're talking about things that annoy you, here's what annoys me, Dimitri. After the end of class, I go to clean the mats, and I find Bandaids on the mat. So I'm like, some macaroon, some donut, as somebody might say, has gone onto the mat with a Band-Aid on their body somehow, on their toe or something, and they leave the mat, and they don't have the Band-Aid, and they don't have the presence of mind to go, oh, where's that used Band-Aid of mine? They just leave. I'm like, that is annoying.
If you go on with a Band-Aid of some sort,
leave with the Band-Aid. It doesn't even have to be the same Band-Aid. Just leave with a Band-Aid. Just take one of them.
Leave no trace.
Yeah.
It's like hiking.
Yeah.
Hiking is the thing, leave no trace. When
you
go on the
go
mountain,
in and leave. Yeah. Go in and come out with everything. Right. Yeah. You go on the mat with tape and a Band-Aid. Please leave with your tape and Band-Aid. Yeah. That's just vile when I see that. I'm like, who are these savages leaving Band-Aids behind?
Savages, like a Neanderthal. Neanderthals used to leave Band-Aids all over them.
They did, yeah.
Prehistoric.
Northern Europe is littered with Neanderthal Band-Aids.
Ancient Band-Aids.
Do we have any more annoying things?
We've got two more. This one I'm not sure. It says communication. But I don't know if that's an annoying thing because I don't get it. It's like, it's saying if there's one thing your instructor does want you to do, it's to ask questions and talk to them. But that's true, but what's the annoying part of it? I'm not getting.
Here's what I do, Dan.
It's saying instructors can't read minds. So I guess what they're saying is annoying is to get upset about not having questions answered without asking it, but that seems like a push to me. I think for me, the annoying thing is the opposite, is that people relentlessly asking questions when it's like,
that's totally annoying.
By the way, I've been guilty of it, where I'm like, well, what if they do this and what if they do that? It took me a long time to learn you have to just stop asking from, you know what I mean? Like, what if they do that? What if they do that? It's like, we can get, yes, there's a lot of things they can do, but just get my main point.
I've seen instructors say, all right, in this class, we're going to open the floor for questions. And then these white belts start saying these most inane questions that are meaningless. You know what I mean? It's like somebody's brand new.
As they say, there are many stupid questions.
They don't have any context to ask useful questions. And it's like telling a 3-year-old, okay, you can dress yourself today and you can decide what you're going to eat for your meals.
It's like when I said in college,
moronic.
Like, there's no stupid questions. And then someone asked a question, I'd be like, okay, that was a stupid question.
I'm correct.
Like
You've corrected me.
And then someone else would ask, and I'd be like, okay, obviously there are a lot of stupid questions. So
we never, now the way we run our classes, Dan, we never open the floor for questions. We're like,
it's like, well,
we're like,
yeah, it's like,
here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's what it is. Here's how. Let's go do it. And then I go over it. And when people are doing it, I'm like, what's your problem? Where are you having a problem? And like jiu-jitsu is about solving problems. And like having a problem here, I can't seem to get my knee through to finish this pass. I'm like, okay, that's your problem. We're not going to open it up for questions.
Right.
I mean, that's way too broad.
I think, again, right now I wouldn't do it, but like I think you're tired and you're like, your brain's a little scrambled, from rolling. And I think I'd go too far of being like, yeah, but what if they do this and what if they do that?
Yeah,
like there's a point where you're like, I get there's things.
Here's the other thing, Dan, is the what if. You don't do the what if phase in question and answer. The what if is when you get down there and you start rolling. You do the jiu-jitsu. That's the what if. Right. Then you try it, and then he does something, and then you do
and then
something.
You can say, here's what he's
doing.
That's
the what if phase of it.
He's stopping me with this.
Exactly. And then, you know what I noticed? So what I do is we teach our position. People start training it. Then I'm running around and watching people, and then maybe they're trying to do some pass stand, and they get swept. And then I can ask the student, I go, what happened? How come that pass didn't work? Why did you get swept? And very often they'll say, I'm not sure. I thought I was going to pass. And then I could point out to them, well, what happened is you got your hips too high, and you got swept. And they go, oh. So, but I'm not, they don't even know what the right question to ask sometimes are. And that's not it. We're just going to, let's find their problem. Like, what is their personal, individual problem, and help them solve that problem. And you know what? Yeah. After they solve that problem, they're going to have another one. And then we do that. It's just a series of problem solving.
Because for me, like, I remember that always happened. It'd be like learning a guard, and it'd be like, how'd he pass your guard? I'd be like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I don't know. Like
sometimes you can't know.
I just be like, I don't know. There was a bunch of things. He did a bunch of stuff.
If you clearly knew, he wouldn't have passed because you would have done something to not let that happen. Yeah.
I think as you get, like, you might, if someone passed your guard, you might know what happened.
Right.
But I all the time would be like, I don't even know what happened. Like, he's passed my guard. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like, I don't know. He threw my legs and I got back and then he threw them again.
Yeah.
And, something.
That's it.
All right. Last one?
Let's do it. Last one.
And this is a straightforward one. And this is, so now we've sort of said this is like, you white belts are doing things wrong. So
yeah.
This is not for the white belts.
Okay.
This is more for blue belts.
Okay.
And anyone else above.
All right. You know, watch out for those blue belts.
Number 6, easy on the white belts is the point. Like, they're saying it might annoy your instructor if you're a higher level belt. And this article is saying, I'm not, that it's generally blue belts beating up on newer students.
Yeah, it's a very.
I don't feel like I've seen that much in your academy, to be honest.
Well, it's very subjective. So, the great John Danaher says it that I think he said 80% of your training should be with people that you're actually better than. And I was listening to a recent podcast episode with Gordon Ryan, and he said they're down in Puerto Rico now, and he's like, the great thing is we get all these great Puerto Rican athletes that come to our academy, and they're not as good as us, so we get to develop our new stuff. If we just try it with each other, it's too hard to develop our new stuff. So you got to be training with people that you have an edge on in order to develop new things.
You said that before because maybe just repeating, but if you're trying something new on someone really good, it never works, right?
Very hard to make it work. Yeah. So there's that. I think part of it is just the attitude, like the energy you bring to it. Like if you're just being a dick, if you're just sticking it to somebody, that's not good. You know, I mean.
So it's not even a white belt, but I think I've never seen this being too bad in your academy. The idea is abusing someone of a lower level.
Yeah, you should never abuse anybody.
Or physically smaller than you or whatever else.
You should never do that under any circumstance.
Sort of like stand up and a guy hitting a woman really hard that weighs 50 pounds less.
What are you saying now, Dan? Like, if people were kickboxing sparring, if the guy hit her too hard, yeah.
Yeah. You're just
or hit a small person too hard, anybody, yeah.
The idea is like a big size difference or a big weight difference or a big whatever it is. It's like some big physical difference or big experience difference.
Right.
Where you're like, why are you abusing them?
Right.
Like that's
the whole thing.
And I'm coming, one last point. I'm coming from this from a point that I'm way extreme on the point that no one should complain about anything.
Oh,
to be fair, like I don't think if someone much better than me was tapping me and beating me, I would never, ever complain. I don't think that's what the gym is for. No. It's an MMA gym. It's a BJJ gym.
Dan.
That's what it's for.
Dan, be a man.
Yeah. I that's what I actually think. Like, I don't think that's what, there's dance classes across the street, right? Like, it's for, that said, there is some line where you're like, what are you doing? Like, what are you,
here's the answer.
What are you doing? Like,
here's the answer
you're
to
abusing
everything,
somebody.
Dan. If you show up to develop your game, that's all that matters. And if you're developing your game, then abusing somebody just never comes into play.
Doesn't occur to you.
Yeah, you're not like, oh, I'm going to lean my elbow into their ear hole just to make them suffer. How's that developing your game? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But also, on the other hand, I don't like it if I see a blue belt with a white belt, and they're like, oh, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm going to let the guy. I'm like, what are you doing? This is your chance to develop your game, develop your triangle choke and everything else.
Can I read like a offshoot of that?
Yeah.
One thing drives me crazy is someone that I think I'm as good as or close or whatever, and they're like, I'll let you pass. And I'm like, you'll let me pass? I can pass you.
Yeah, that's
like
silly.
that's maddening to me.
Yeah.
Like there's people that's happened to me actually. These other things haven't happened to me as much. That one's happened to me a lot.
Right.
If someone where they're like, well, I'll just let you do this. And I'm like, yeah, but I could do that to you.
Yeah, that's
like,
silly.
Like, what do you mean you're
that's
letting
some
me?
kind of psychological finessing that they're doing to you. Yeah, that's nonsense.
Or they're protecting themselves.
Right.
They're protecting their own ego. Right?
And here's what I do. So I train with different students. So one of the students, Brandon Stivaletta, he's a blue belt, super nice guy, and he's very good, very technical, improving all the time. And then I'll train with him, and I try a lot of my new stuff, try to like do my new deep half stuff or whatever. And then, but I explain to him, here's what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm doing. And when you do this, you zig, then I zag. And then I'm also trying to educate him on how to make it harder for me. You know what I mean? So I never do something to a student and not explain what happened and why it worked and what they could do to make it harder for me next time. You know what I mean? That's the whole process. So
I feel like you've done things to me
and never explained it,
and just abusive and not explained it.
Well, that's you.
Is that
You're
possible?
Not the average student, Ted. Yeah.
I
think
feel
that's
like you
just,
don't extend that courtesy to me.
I have a personal animosity toward you, disgruntlement.
I feel like I've been choked out and been like, "What happened?" You're like, "I choked you out."
That's possible.
I don't think I was like, "What happened?" I think I was just like, "I know what happened."
Well, I'm talking about the new improved me, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. If you come in soon, I probably won't abuse you. Yeah.
I don't totally believe
who knows?
that. But
yeah. Well, that's it. Is that all of the annoying
all
things?
of them.
That's it. I don't want to. I'm already complaining too much, Dan. I want to vent. I don't want to complain. I love my students.
It wasn't a complaint.
Yeah, come in. You're all great. Just be courteous. Focus on developing yourself. Be good to your training partners. Scrap hard. You don't have to be mamby-pamby. Just be courteous. We're all getting better. We're all developing. And most importantly, subscribe to this podcast. That's the most important thing you can do.
That's more important than any of it.
Listen to this. Subscribe to it. Tell your friends about it. We have about 636 subscribers, Dan. We need 1,000, and we need 4,000 hours.
Come on.
We're getting there. So get out there.
So is anyone listening and not
Yeah,
subscribed? 40%. Hit subscribe.
40% of these maniacs listen, Dan. I have the stats, and they're not subscribed. So if you're listening to this and you're not subscribing, you're kind of a freeloader.
You say nothing bad happens if you subscribe.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it's not like suddenly you get emails or something.
Potentially some very good things could happen if you subscribe. So definitely subscribe. And then that's it. We'll see you next week.